30, almost. I have 7:29. It is 7:30, and we'll call the Board of Selectmen October 7, 2020 meeting to order. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is acceptance of the agenda, and I do have to add one item, and I'm going to add it under appointments to boards and commissions, and it is the Emergency Management Planning Grant. It will become number 12. And what we need to do, it's an annual grant that we receive for emergency management. And we'll need to approve a resolution that I had emailed to the selectmen earlier this evening. It's simply to give permission to me to sign for the grant. And it's something that Don Gouen administers for us as our emergency management director. So then refunds become 13, status reports 14, and so forth, ending with number 18, adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
I'll make the motion and Jim's going to second it, I guess.
Alf made the motion. Is there a second? Jim?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim. Any errors, changes? There being none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I do know that Michael Hernandez is joining us by telephone tonight, so if you don't see his picture yet, I don't believe it will appear, but he is planning to be here by audio only tonight. Lila, is he joined us? Yes, so Michael is with us. You just don't see his picture on the tile. And Tom Robinson, our finance director, is here as well. Number 4, approval of minutes for the regular meeting of September 2, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mike Pelton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
it.
Seconded by Rick Shar. Any changes, errors, omissions? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Approval of the minutes from September 16, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Jim Tripp. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Seconded by Rick Shar. Any changes, errors, or omissions? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Under communications and correspondence, I don't know if April Graves is on the line tonight. Okay, no report for tonight. I'm not at public comment yet. No. I'm still on communications. We're still on number 5. Is Emily Basham with us?
I am. Good evening.
Hi, and I see Mackie is here as well. Welcome. The Green Bank is here to give us a presentation, and they're going to do their self-introductions for us. And they also have a slide presentation to explain for us how we're going to be installing solar panels on the Brownstone Intermediate School. So I think we'll start with Mackie Dykes from the Green Bank. Welcome.
Great. Thank you, First Selectwoman Bransfield and the rest of the committee. We're honored to be here. Appreciate you making the time. We're going to be talking about our solar MAP program, Solar Municipal Assistance Program. We've been working with a few of the folks here. I've had the pleasure of meeting over the last, it's been close to a year now that we've been working on this. The solar project development timeline is a long one, and we've had some unexpected delays from our friends at the utilities. Not their fault, but things have been a little slower. But now we're finally, things are really starting to move, and we're going to have a lot of activity in the last few months of the year here to finalize these projects. So wanted to come and give everyone an overview of program project that we've got for Portland and where we're going from here. So with that, let me hand it over to Emily Basham to start that overview.
Thanks, Mackie. And we do have some slides, but I'm unable to share my screen. I think the host might need to enable participant screen sharing.
Okay, we're going to work on that right now, Emily. And
Okay.
Lila, can I also ask you, are we taping? Okay, so the meeting is being recorded, so everyone knows. And Lila, my assistant, is going to be enabling you to share your slide, Emily.
Oh, I see
Should
that.
be working now.
Yes. Oh, that might be my full screen. Let's see. All right, can you guys see just
Yeah, I'm seeing just the solar map.
this slide? Okay,
Yep, same here.
okay. Well, Mackie told you who we are, so I'll skip to a little bit of a background of who is actually working on the Solar Municipal Assistance Program. It's Mackie and I are from the Connecticut Green Bank. We're a quasi-public state agency. We were created by the legislature in 2011 to provide financing for clean energy projects. And we partnered with CSW Energy, who's our technical partner on the program. They're a local engineering company to help us scope projects for municipalities for solar map. As Mackie mentioned, we've got a long history of working with municipalities to finance projects using the Green Bank's power purchase agreement. And through that work, we know that there are a lot of barriers to doing solar projects that precede the financing portion of the project. So we created Solar Municipal Assistance Program, or Solar MAP, to really help towns handle the steps that come before the financing. You know, where should we put the solar? What size? How much is this going to offset? And how do we finance it? So the Solar Municipal Assistance Program was created to really provide all of the technical and project development support that municipalities need to go solar. So this is just a brief overview of what we've been working on with Portland so far, and a look at what's to come. So with our support from CSW Energy, we analyzed the solar opportunity at the intermediate school and conducted a site visit and scoped a project design. And based on that analysis, we provided some preliminary pricing for a power purchase agreement. And with the green light from Portland, we move forward securing utility incentives for the project that are pretty critical for making the project economics work and for us to be able to deliver savings for this project. So that's where we're at now. We're just wrapping up getting all the incentives for projects that we're working on through this program. And looking ahead, we will be running a solicitation to secure a construction partner. So we're administering an RFP to find a local qualified solar installer to install the project. One of the benefits of the Solar Municipal Assistance Program is that we're actually working with a handful of towns across the state. We've got 7 towns developing 24 projects that will build over 5 megawatts of solar for municipalities. And kind of with this bundle of projects, we'll be putting them all into a single RFP so that we can really drive down construction costs and deliver better pricing and more savings for your project. So we're at the cusp of putting out that RFP, which will return our construction partner and will enable us to return to the town with a final power purchase agreement price, and will help us firm up exactly what your savings will be in the first year and over 20 years of the project. And we just wanted to provide just a brief reminder and overview of what a power purchase agreement is. This is ultimately the agreement that Portland would sign to enable the solar system to be installed on Brownstone Intermediate School, and Mackie will go into the project details. But just to provide an overview of what a power purchase agreement is, the Green Bank is actually going to be owning this system, and the town would actually be purchasing the generation that's coming off of the system on a per kilowatt hour basis at a rate that's discounted from your current utility rate. So the Green Bank is, as we've been developing the project, we're responsible for constructing it and maintaining the system and monitoring it. And the town is simply agreeing to purchase all of the electricity that is coming off of those panels for the next 20 years. So you guys are not, buying any equipment or leasing any panels. You're simply, entering into a power purchase agreement similar to like a third-party electricity provider. And just to highlight a couple of benefits of the power purchase agreement, it's really that you're locking in a lower electricity rate with the power purchase agreement, demonstrated in the illustration on the right. Our initial power purchase or kilowatt hour rate that we've proposed is lower than your current utility rate. And so over the 20 years, as we see utility rates increase, this PPA rate would be fixed. So as utility rates rise, your savings is actually increasing because you're getting most of your power from the panels. And that's really kind of the main benefit. Another is that there are federal tax credits that are generous for these types of projects. And as a municipality, pay federal taxes, and that is money that's left on the table if you're to pursue purchasing panels yourselves. So with the Connecticut Green Bank, we partner with private investors who can capture those federal tax credits, and we can pass on those benefits with the discounted electricity rate. And I think at this point, if there's any questions about the power purchase agreement, we could take those, or we could head into Mackie describing the project that we have scoped for Portland.
Thank you,
Emily, I just
Emily. I'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, hi, Emily. This is Mike Pelton. Just a couple quick questions. Have you guys come down on the fixed rate per watt that you guys are looking at for municipalities, or for us in particular? And are you anticipating 10% degradation over the time? Like, how do you anticipate the production of the panels over the 10 to 15, 20-year period?
Sure. So I've just moved to the next slide. Mackie, if you want to go through the project details that describes our discounted rate at this point.
Yeah, well, so let me, I'll give a little bit of the project details and then directly go to your question, Selectman Pelton. So this is Mackie Dykes. I'm the Vice President of Finance and Programs here at the Green Bank. The project that we're working on is a 70 kilowatt system at Brownstone Intermediate School. right now you're paying just over 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So, for every unit of electricity that the building consumes, that's what you're paying for from the utility. That includes your generation, so the actual cost of the electricity. And it also covers all those other things we've been hearing so much about in the news in the last few months due to the price increases. So the transmission, the delivery, and a whole bunch of other, if you actually look at your bill, there's several other line items, FMCC and various other charges. All those are billed by the kilowatt hour as well. You add those, we've looked at the bill for Brownstone. You add those all up, and for every unit of electricity, you're paying that 11.36 rate. What we're hoping to do, so as Emily mentioned, we're going to run an RFP for this project, along with projects from a number of other towns that are participating in Solar Map. We think by grouping large numbers of projects together like this, we'll get very competitive pricing to build the system. And it's the cost of building the system that is the primary factor in determining what the rate we charge you for the solar power will be. So, we don't know exactly what that will be yet, but we've, running some numbers on what we'll set a ceiling as for what the highest construction cost will accept, and what's reasonable, because we need to be able to deliver you, we think, at least a 10% discount, or it doesn't make sense. So the worst case scenario you can expect when we come to you with the final contract will be just over 10 cents. So it's a 10% discount on your current utility rate. But again, we're hoping and thinking that through the competitive process, we'll be able to drive that even lower. Next slide. So let me actually, before we move on, so some of the questions. The degradation rate for the panels, I believe it's a 0.5% degradation rate that we've assumed in terms of annual decrease in the electricity output of the system. We've got a number of panels, a number of projects around the state. We've done analysis on the, how those projects have degraded over time, and feel confident with that number. And it's also we're in line with industry assumptions around that. And the other question, it was something, can you repeat the question about the fixed rate? I didn't quite catch the.
Oh, no, actually the question got answered when I saw one of the charts. You guys are setting at a fixed rate rather than a lot of residential PPAs have a slight rise every year. So.
Yep, we'll fix it. So, it's one of the other benefits of a PPA. You're insulated from, electric rates go down a little bit. Sometimes they go up. But when you look at the long-term trend, they go up. So you'll be insulating yourself from those rises over the 20-year term. That'll remain fixed.
Got it.
Mackie, this is Jim. Can you go back one slide, please, for a second? So you're saying the annual production, we're looking at 70,000 kilowatt hours. What's the size of the unit? It's going to be, is that the 69.3 kilowatt is going to be the generation capability on the roof? Okay.
Right, that's the capacity of the system. And then based on, all the factors of the building, how it's, how it faces how the roof faces the sun, how much shading there is, analyzing the weather patterns there for, going back years, that's how much we expect it to produce on an annual basis.
Okay.
And again, you're only on the hook for what it produces. That's the great thing about a PPA is there's no risk to the municipality. You only buy whatever cheaper power is available. So, and we have every incentive. We're going to front all the money for the system. We don't get paid back unless it produces. So, you can rest assured that we're monitoring the production of the system, and when it goes down, we want you to get the savings that you expected, but we also want to get paid and make sure we get our money back. So we're going to have someone out there to get it back up and running as soon as possible.
Yeah, I guess that was my question. I was just curious whether or not, based on the number of panels and the generation capacity, whether or not it's going to be producing more than the 70,000, or if that's what you're anticipating based on, again, shading. I know that when we did our house, they looked at the modeling, they looked at trees, they looked at weather, number of, days of sun, et cetera, to come up with those numbers. So that's why I was just curious. So it sounds like the 70,000 was what you're expecting this unit to generate. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mackie, I'm familiar with the residential side. I actually work for a solar company on that side. And residential is easy because they're occupying the home all the time. Since the school is not going to be occupied during the highest production times in the summer, that July, August, will net metering apply to what you guys, will you guys have a credit that will apply toward the production that's used above and beyond what's needed?
Yep, that's correct. So in the summertime, that's when the system will be producing the most, you probably won't have the demand in the building to actually consume the solar production as it's happening. So what'll happen is you'll buy it from us in July at 10 cents, and then you'll get a credit on your bill, so that in December, when it's not producing as much, but you need the power, instead of paying the 11.36 cents for electricity, you can pull down that credit that you banked during the summer. And that works. You're able, that is, you're familiar, that sort of crediting happens for a year. And you want to make sure that you're not producing more over a year with the solar system than you use in a year. Otherwise, you're not getting that 11.36 value. You're getting something much less than the 10 cents that you're paying us. So we're very careful. A lot of commercial companies will size systems to right at 100% of demand, some even a little higher. We won't go above 85% of demand just because, usage patterns change. COVID's a perfect example. I'm sure that their schools are using less than they did before. You might want to do an energy efficiency project. We don't want you ever to have to worry about, being underwater on the PPA. So we're conservative in sizing.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. Okay. Let's next slide. So just where we are, the ZREC awards, that's the incentives that the utilities give out that help to make these projects, help us able to deliver the discount to you. That was one of the things that these are months delayed thanks to the storm and then some various regulatory fights I won't get into. But that's been holding us up for several months now. Finally, all resolved. Awards are in hand. So we are planning later this week or first thing early next week to finally get the RFP out there to find a firm or firms to build these systems. We'll make the selection. And at that point, we will know what your PPA rate will be. So we'll be coming back to you at that point with, at this point, there's been no commitment from Portland. We will come to you then with an actual contract to sign. You'll know what your rate is. We'll do a full savings analysis so you can understand what you can expect to see over the term. And hopefully we'll get it signed and get this thing built. We will be, I mentioned we've kind of been a wait and see for a while, and now it's going to be a lot of activity. Unfortunately, the ZREC process is kind of jammed us here. We want to get these agreements done before the end of the year for some tax reasons. The incentive on the tax side will go down next year, so we want to be sure to capture the richest ones for Portland. So we're going to be working hard to get you final numbers by late November, early December. We'll be working in the next month or so to review the power purchase agreement. We won't have the final numbers in there, but work with the attorneys to make sure they're comfortable with it, so we can hopefully get this signed right before the end of the year. Just some dates here. As I mentioned, we're about to release the RFP. And then I think the key thing is, by mid-December, I want to have it executed, and we'll be coming to you late November, early December with that final pricing. Next slide. Yep, and I believe that's it. But I'll pause there for any questions.
Jackie, this is Lou Pear. I have a question on power purchase. We have some other places in town, and I'm not sure if you're the right avenue to go with a power purchase, or whether we want to look at a solar installer, or whether we want to look at some other way of doing this. But we have a recreational park with a building and a hill. And the hill has probably enough room for maybe a 1 megawatt array. The building probably has enough space for maybe a 10 megawatt, maybe a little bigger system. And at the park, the only electricity that we are using, and of course, this is a park, so this is, and I'm just asking this as a general question of maybe we can do something else there too, is that if in fact this park is open from April to November, there'll be some electricity for the operation of stoves, refrigerators, pumps for irrigation. We have a splash pad that would probably be used for a short period of time, maybe 10, 12 weeks during the course of the year, maybe 14. If let's say we were to put a solar array on the building, and let's say in the wintertime when it's not being used, it's generating, electricity that's going back to the grid. Can we do that? And does that make sense? And who would be the person or agency? Would it be you or some other agency that would be the best avenue so that we could not have to pay any electricity for that facility?
For the what sounds like a small facility there, this program and the Green Bank focuses on systems that are, it's called behind the meter. So they're producing electricity solely to serve the building that they're either on top of or they're on the ground right next to. And just given all the sort of behind the scenes rigmarole, the legal and finance and everything, we need at least a 30 kilowatt system in order to make it work. So those recreational facilities tend to not consume enough electricity to support a system of that size. You can certainly look at it, but yeah, it's usually not the case. However, the other, you mentioned all the open space that could facilitate a much larger system. There are programs in the state that facilitate those larger developments on sites where there's not the demand. You can send power directly to the grid. There's other programs where it's called virtual net metering, where you can send the credits to other municipal buildings. Unfortunately, right now, there's no room in any of those programs for projects. In fact, there's quite a long line for if they do add some room. And so the Green Bank is not doing those. There's just frankly little need for us. I'm sure y'all are probably getting calls from developers on virtual net metering in any open land you have. So I don't think at this point we couldn't help with the larger system.
So maybe with a smaller system, if we engaged an agreement with a solar company, and the solar company installed, just like they would install on a house, we could either lease it or purchase it. And maybe that may be the best way to go. And then we would gain, well, if we owned it, we wouldn't have to pay any electricity. And maybe that's the best way to go. All right, well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Meki and Emily, for giving us the process. And I look forward to working with you on the agreement. And then that will come back to the selectmen, just so that they're aware of what we are doing. We'll be working with our town attorney as well to make sure that the town understands the contract and make certain that all of the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. So we look forward to doing that on or before the December 14 date, if I'm not mistaken, and getting those solar panels up on the schools. I want to thank our Clean Energy Task Force. Andy Bauer is here on the call. And I also want to thank our Board of Education. They're doing a phenomenal job in helping us make sure that we're doing the solar panels on the Brownstone School. I don't know if there's any folks from the Board of Education. I know they met last night, and our liaison, Mr. Zampano, is here, and I'm certain he'll be able to fill them in as well if they were unable to make the meeting tonight. So thank you. With that, I think we're ready to move on. As far as communications go, I wanted to tell the selectmen that some not good news. Our police canine, Nero, is very ill and is not expected to be around too much longer. So I'm sorry to learn of this. I wanted to let the selectmen know. We will be taking a look at, within an appropriate amount of time, another canine, and I'll keep you up to date on that. But I just wanted to let you know that Sergeant Kelly is caring for Nero in the best and most comfortable way possible. And as things proceed, I'll be sure to let you know. I've gotten some comments from residents out in the area of Old Marlboro Turnpike, East Cotton Hill, and Thompson Hill Road neighborhood. They are very concerned about very loud automatic and semi-automatic weapons. A lot of shooting is happening in the area. It seems to be primarily, as our police have looked into this, there is one resident who does have a shooting range at their house. The police state that it is not illegal, that it is not against the law what they are doing. The resident has indicated he has no intention of stopping. And I understand after talking with Captain Millardo that there is an ordinance that we could look at as far as shooting ranges, both outdoor and indoor, and how they can be compatible and respect the rights of others within the neighborhood and still be in keeping with the law. So I'm looking into this, and I wanted to let the selectmen know. I don't know if any of you have gotten any calls on this. I got 6 to 8 calls, and back in the summertime, I had one resident send me the video with sound, and I can tell you it is very, very loud. And I got 7 calls on Monday of this week because of the semi-automatic weapon that was being discharged, and the reverberation of the noise was very loud and disconcerting to the neighbors. So I need to do more research on this with our police department, certainly keeping everyone's rights and privileges in mind. But we do need to take a look at this and see perhaps what other communities have done to have a more compatible approach to this matter. Do you have any questions on that?
Susan,
Who is that?
this is Rick.
Hi, Rick.
I think a couple of us spoke at the same time. So if the other person wants to go first, that's okay.
No, I'll call on you, Rickshaw.
Okay. I was unaware of what you just mentioned in the Thompson Hill area, but I have received comments, complaints from neighbors on Middle Haddam Road about the shooting range that's quite near the airline trail, just before you get to the old trestle that crosses Middle Haddam Road. So, and you may have had some
Yes,
feedback
I
on
have.
that too over the years. So while I don't think it doesn't sound as if it's as bad as what's going on at the other end of town, it's happening in more than one area. So I would be in favor of looking into what we might be able to do to, it is a little unnerving when you're walking on the rail trail and you're hearing somebody shoot guns. And it's, it's pretty close by. Plus, so.
It is target practice, and the noise, it really does frighten people, particularly when they're close by. And yes, I have gotten complaints in that area as well. Thank you for reminding me of that as well. But
Okay.
these complaints, there were several this week.
I
So there
see.
must have been a very loud disturbance over the weekend. And I think in particular, it was either Saturday or Sunday. And it motivated people to contact my office.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
so we'll look into that and I'll put it on the future agendas and perhaps you will receive some comments. I told the neighbors that I would be reporting to you about that. So, and as I said, I'm working with Captain Millardo on that as well.
And
Susan.
this is, oops, go ahead, and I'll talk.
I'm sorry, Ralph, just really quickly, Susan, I've gotten calls from people that have complained about the early morning, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, some of the hunters out there or some of the shooting that goes on. So I guess my question is, do we have an existing noise ordinance with the time of day when they can do that shooting?
Yeah, that's something else we'll look into. The monitoring and the measurement of noise for this particular situation might be challenging. We have had some other instances with factories and some other noise from ATVs that were being used that we can monitor. The shooting, Mike, I'll look into. I'm not certain. Hunting laws are different than these target practice situation. The DEEP is in charge of that. In terms of the target practice, the police are telling me it has to be done in a safe way, quote unquote. But I'm not certain that there are any parameters. But the state DEEP police told Ron Millardo that if there is an interest in addressing this, many communities and towns have looked at ordinances that may meet the needs of your community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to quickly add, I've been on the airline trail as well when they were out near Middle Haddam using their target range. And they've actually stopped, they clearly stop when they see someone in the area of they could see visually. Because it's happened twice where I've been walking, all of a sudden they stopped. But it is, if you come upon it, not knowing, not expecting, now I know it, because we had gotten complaints before. So I was very well aware it could happen when I was in that area, but they clearly try to stop when there are people crossing on the airline trail, what I've seen.
That may be the case there, but the neighbors that called me on Monday indicated that was not the case on Sunday in their neighborhood, that the noise was constant and continual. And when the police spoke in the past, there wasn't an interest in stopping. So, I'm not saying, trying to make any conclusions on this. We just need to look into it and see if we can meet the needs of our community and the quality of life for everyone.
Susan, just as a point of information,
Yes.
I too would support looking into an ordinance. I know that the shooting that's happening on near Airline Trail, it happens quite often, and I'm not sure if that is a safe target range. And that's the other thing that I think we need to look into with the other towns and with the state and maybe DEEP, is what is a safe shooting range? And if there are parameters to that, I would be supportive of an ordinance that included those.
Okay, very good points. Thank
Thank you.
you, everybody, on that. I'll open it up for public comment. Lila, is there any public comment tonight? Okay, we have no public comment at this point. So we'll move on to racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. Just a reminder that the Committee on Solidarity will meet on the 13th of this month, and it will be by way of Zoom. and I welcome everyone to participate. Details as to the agenda are on our website, and I'm also working with the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities on additional workshops and trainings that they're doing on this topic. The next item is a special town meeting that we will establish. We once again have some energy efficiency improvements that we're looking at. And I know Tom Robinson is here, and he is working with Bob Shea. Bob Shea cannot be at our meeting tonight due to a serious motor vehicle accident in the area of Four Corners and the Meadows near Indian Hill Avenue. We have a pretty good
I'm here.
block.
He is here.
I just
Oh.
made it, Sue. I'm here.
I don't see you. Okay.
Not me, my face.
Okay. All right. Very good, Bob. But we still have people without electricity due to the accident. But Eversource crews, I took a call a few minutes ago, and they are at the scene, according to Bob, doing whatever repairs are necessary. So we hope that that restoration will occur quickly. Our liaison from Eversource called me immediately to apprise us of what was going on. And I do appreciate Pat Banz's work. She's a community liaison that has done a marvelous job for us. And I appreciate the work that she does. So anyway, Tom or Bob, maybe we'll start with you, Bob, if you would just want to highlight the energy efficiency program that you are proposing.
I think he needs to unmute.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. Go ahead.
No,
Are
Sue,
we-
I just, we're starting to clear up that area. Eversource is on scene. We had to drop the grid, which affected a lot more people than normal because of the severity at first of the wires that were compromising the vehicle so that we can, do our rescue work. But that's been accomplished safely. No serious injuries that we know of. And I think hopefully power is beginning to be restored in the area. So.
Very good. We are moving on actually to the energy efficiency program where Eversource is providing us with an incentive amount. And this will be for three buildings, Bob, in the town?
Yes, it's 3 buildings.
Okay.
It's
That's
the
correct.
Town Hall, Fire Company 1 and Fire Company 2.
Do you want to give any details, Tom?
So this would be for a 60-month term that this would go on for. There's the 3 buildings that we spoke of. There would be upgrades to it's retrofitting, it's upgrading interior and some exterior lighting. There's a varying paybacks, but that with this it's a 60-month for this. There is project costs of a total of about $71,146 spread amongst the 3 projects. The town hall would be $31,519, Fire Company 1 at $15,089, and Fire Company 2 at $24,538. The incentives are about $12,754 for town hall, $4,318 from Fire Company 1, and $7,654 for Fire Company 2. So there's some good incentives there. There'll be payback will come off of our utility bill. The one thing that I did notice, was brought to my attention actually in the legal notice that you all had in front of you probably to review, that in the first, on the item number 1 in that paragraph, the final sentence starts with the work at. And it says in it right now it says at the Portland Library. What that needs to be is needs to be changed to the work at the Town Hall Fire Company #1, Fire Company #2. Will include the lighting upgrade, reduce long-term utility costs, reduce operation and maintenance costs, improve light levels, and improve appearance of property, and provide sustainability benefits and reduction, and to reduce the carbon footprint. So we want to make sure that that gets made before. I think that's all there, Susan. Do you need any other information, or is that enough?
I'll open it up for questions. If not, I would request that there be a motion for a special town meeting to be held Wednesday, October 21, 2020 at 7:15 PM for the purpose of, and I'm just going to read from this resolution, the approval and authorization to enter into an energy efficiency services loan agreement with Eversource. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion, Susan.
Thank you. Lou, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Rick Shar. Any discussion on that? Tom Robinson, I would ask that you leave a note for Michelle Sapaglia, because she will need to make that correction so that it goes into the River East correctly. She'll need to do that before the day starts tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Wait a minute.
I was just going to ask Tom if he figured out the total percentage incentive that Eversource is giving us on this. I mean, I can do the math.
It's a 35% incentive.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Bob, and thank you, Tom. We'll move on to monthly budget report highlights. It was emailed to you earlier today. And as we typically have, Tom typically gives us any necessary highlights. And then if there are any questions, you can ask them, but you can always contact Tom later or at our next meeting on later in the month as well. Tom?
All right. So the first page that we had sent out was the budget revenue report. The budget revenue, the receipts for property taxes, had come in pretty strong, even though we're within the pandemic. So that's good for the current period. The prior and the interest, they'll be coming along hopefully throughout the year. There's a few, the state monies have not come in yet, but they generally will. Where we have seen some of the state monies come in is in the miscellaneous, that's account 00214. That's generally where there's money for the transportation grant for dial-a-ride. That's generally where that goes. But in addition, this year so far to date, the Secretary of State has provided funding for the elections, and that we've received $1,100 for safe polls money, $2,500 of safe polls money, and then $3,378 for absentee ballot aid money. So that's in that account. Property rental is currently in this instance, it was the funds from Oak Hill. Oak Hill has made their second installment payment. And I think we were in receipt of a payment that hasn't been posted yet for Brownstone. That'll be posted, I think, in October. In conveyance, the 00312 and 00314, which is recording fees, that's in the town clerk's office. Very strong as there have been the sale of houses has been strong. So that's been good. Police private duty, the expense when we get there is more than we expected, and therefore the revenue is at levels of more than we were expecting at this point. 401, which is the interest rates have really gone down quite a bit, and it's at very low levels. So you know, that one there, we may not even see half of what we budgeted in that amount. I think we budgeted 60. We may be lucky to get to the 30,000 mark. 00354, that was the Kerma dividend distribution, as well as CCM gave back part of their dues as a was like a little bit of a grant or a return of funds. So that's what's in other revenue of 17,484. Moving on to expenditures. The fund, the Department 007, which is elections. You know, we'll have to keep watching that. There, you know, that there should be an anticipation of additional costs in that area with ballots and poll workers and of the such. But as we did speak of, there is some Secretary of State has provided some funding, and also the Center for Technology and Civic Life has also provided a grant as well to the town clerk for the absentee ballot process and mailing, and some extra hours that the town clerk's office needs to process those absentee ballots. In the assessor's office, 012 is the department. Service contracts are slightly higher than we anticipated. Not a big thing, but it will probably show up as a negative number, as an over budget. So we'll have to, you know, those are kind of set by the service contract provider. So there's really not much we can do about those items. We need those services. The technology budget is 017. The 13002 account, which is overtime, that's a little bit higher than we had expected at this point. We've had people having to do overtime for Zoom meetings, and that was for the Board of Selectmen and some of the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed activities have stopped. So that's handled by another group. The alarm matters have occurred with the storm. There was phone issues, there was smoke detector issues, so there, as well as other alarm issues that caused overtime. In the police, like I said, police private duty is higher than we had expected at this point. But then you have an associated revenue with that. So we just watch that throughout the year and you know, as it continues on, and see how that goes. On Department 032, the highway department, that department had two areas that were very hit hard by the big storm. Overtime took a hit here, and it's almost utilized their whole overtime budget. But during this time of year, the overtime within the department is usually lower than, is not as often used. It's more for storms outside of snow. Snow is charged to a whole separate budget. So, you know, this storm caused a use of overtime for all the debris cleanup. As well as there was an equipment rental is higher than we anticipated, and that was also due to the debris removal. We had to rent a wheeled excavator with a multi-grapple arm so that we could, you know, gather that debris up in a quicker fashion, as well as an efficient fashion. Those two, if the federal government approves FEMA on that, those two areas likely to get reimbursed. We have not heard yet if that will be approved. And 041 is the zoning office. Right now, everything looks good there. I do believe that there has been, the zoning officer has been working a little bit longer to cover more issues within the the Planning and Zoning Office and working through that matter. And that'll be addressed. We'll continue to review that throughout the year. And there were some other workers that weren't from a different department in planning that were not working here any longer. So therefore, we need to have some coverage in that office. I think that's what I have for an update as of now.
Are there any questions for Tom Robinson? I'll also point out that in talking with Bob, who's here tonight, we are building a mountain of brush at the transfer station. And Bob informs me that we're going to need to do some chipping once again. So we're going to have to hire the company to come in and take care of that. We can't allow that to continue. And I'll let Bob make a couple comments on that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we have a pile that is approaching, if not larger than what we collected all of last year, which was an extremely busy year for brush as well. So unfortunately, for safety reasons, of course, our DEP permit, which allows us to store only so much material there, we're going to have to mitigate that pile. We hope to do that before winter. Good news is we finished in 8 weeks, or today's the 7th, and the storm was on the 7th of August. It took us that long with 2 full crews working every day. At times, a little bit of overtime to do brush removal because we were renting equipment. We wanted to utilize that at its fullest while we had it, and we did so. I can't say enough about the crews that were out there cleaning up. There was a tremendous amount of debris. You can say that just count your number of homes in town and they all had a pile. And then that's not to include all the common areas that don't have residents, that we had damage that we had to clear as well, just from the storm for the roads. We're still out. We'll be out for quite a bit of time over the winter months if the weather's good, picking up large debris, moving trunks of trees that we just pushed away from the roadway to make them safe. So it's been quite a large task, but again, the crews handled it the best they could. We appreciate everything from the residents and their patience. There's only so much we can do with what we have, and I think we met our goal. We wish we could have been a little quicker, but we needed to do it safely, and we needed the equipment to take care of it. So that brush pile, you should all take a tour. You'll be amazed at how large it is, and I will work with our current contractor, which we were very lucky. We removed the last brush pile 5 days before this storm. So we had the room, it was empty per se, and to fill it up again. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to spend some money to get that done. Hopefully we'll be able to offset that with some FEMA grant money to help us along with this storm. And I just hope that comes through. We spent money this year well in advance of what we usually do, but it was for an important cause. We needed to make our roads safe and get back to a normal way of traveling around town. So.
Yeah, and it's really good that we have our transfer station, that it's managed so well, and our crews were able to accommodate all our residents by doing that special brush pickup. I mean, Mount Rushmore is there. It's going to disappear once we take it down. And then I think it's going to reappear because we're doing brush pickup again in the spring for residents. I always think there's no more, and then more comes. So stay tuned. And again, thank you, Public Works. I make a little light of it, but I'm so proud of the work that our crews have been able to do. And really a lot of appreciative messages have come in from our residents through email, telephone calls, and even written notes. So it's to the credit of our staff for the great work they're doing. So thank you very much. And thank you to our residents as well.
Susan, this is Mike. I just had one question for Tom, if I could.
Sure, go ahead,
Right.
Mike.
So Tom, one of the things I've been asked lately is in terms of budget. I know we had a lot of concerns with the COVID when it hit, and we had a lot of discussions about what we thought our anticipated income would be, et cetera. Are you feeling cautiously optimistic about our budget going forward from what you've seen so far? Because there was some pretty sketchy times even a couple months ago when we're looking at this thing. So what's your feeling on that?
It's hard to say specifically. There's certain areas, interest is a concern. That's a hard hitter that doesn't seem to be coming back. There's other areas, you know, the payment of taxes that we received in July and August, you know, were strong, so that was a positive. Well needed. We needed that cash flow. So those components, I think that there are some positive grant positions that are occurring with the funds that our Secretary of State is providing, the funds that this specific Center for Technology, for Tech and Civic Life, the funds they're providing are helpful. We do, you know, we still like to see, we're seeing strong activity within the town clerk's office with sales of homes. So that's good. I mean, that's kind of maybe the offset of where interest is. You see more sale activity because interest income is low, as well as rent is, you know, buying items is low. So but we're, you know, we'd like to see some positivity out of the building department. It's some of those bigger projects to come through. That would be good. But you know, we're still, you know, I think everyone's still watching it, still working it. Everyone's still a little leery and nervous about the COVID and the pandemic, and as it, you know, it can turn so quickly.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions on the budget or on the revenue and expense report? Then we'll move on to the next item, which is the Connecticut Connectivity Grant. You'll recall I spoke about this at previous meetings. I did send to you a draft of the grant application that we are working on. Jeff Jacobson and Bob Shea in particular are helping with this to take a look at some sidewalk improvements and connectivity. I just want to highlight for you the facts of what we're looking at in Freestone Avenue. We're looking at connecting and installing sidewalks on the south side from Cross Street, which is the St. Mary's Church side of Freestone Avenue, from Cross Street down to High Street. Then from High Street, we're looking to connect and install sidewalks on the west side. Excuse me, just a minute. On the west side from Freestone Avenue down to Marlborough Street, Route 66, which means we would be proposing to put in that strip of sidewalk that's missing in front of Daniel's Oil. Crossing over the traffic light on Route 66 to Marlborough Street in front of the Airline Railroad Depot building and Top Dog, we would put sidewalk. So when you cross from the sidewalk at Cumberland Farms at the traffic light, you're crossing 4 lanes of traffic. And in particular, in bad weather, when there's snowbanks and things, there's no place for people to then go off of the road easily. So we're looking at putting sidewalks there, going east along Marlborough Street to Airline Avenue, taking a right at Airline Avenue, install new sidewalks from Route 66 down Airline Avenue, just to it's Riverside, right, Bob? I'm sorry, I get these streets mixed up. Riverside Street. We would paint a new crosswalk on Airline Avenue to go across to Riverside Street, heading east, and it would be on the side opposite of Chatham Court. So along Riverside Street, we would install sidewalks to go to Chatham Court and then paint a crosswalk across Riverside Street to get into Chatham Court, where we have over 70 families and 100 children that live in that area that do commute from school as well as visit retail establishments and other businesses, medical facilities, et cetera. Additionally, we're looking, in your mind, go back to Marlborough Street on the corner of where Anderson Farm Supply is and High Street, heading on High Street going, let's see, repaint that crosswalk that goes between Cumberland Farms and Anderson Farm Supply. That is very faint from what I've seen. And then sidewalks from Marlborough Street up along where there's a house there and then the medical facility from Middlesex Hospital, catch up with those sidewalks that are there and install a bus shelter in front of the medical facility, which would allow safe access to the bus. And the bus comes down High Street, and I believe it goes up High Street. So it would be an opportunity to work with Middletown Area Transit that helps people get to other locations within our town, within Middletown and outside of the area. And it would be a safe way for people in an area where there's never been sidewalks to walk on to safely either walk or bicycle to a bus stop, which we think is important. And also, this project would allow us to fill in the gaps. There's some odd gaps where there's no sidewalks, where we've put in some very quality sidewalks along the way, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing. And you have to walk in the road. I'm thinking of Freestone Avenue, you have to walk on the road and then get back on the sidewalk. And then on High Street, you either walk on the grass in front of Daniel's Oil, you're walking the road, and then you go back onto the sidewalk. Those are just a couple of examples of what we're trying to do. The emphasis of this grant and the point system is illustrated in the email that was sent to you. But I want to highlight that one of the things they're looking at is transportation equity. And that would be areas of your town where you traditionally haven't had a safe way to get to mass transit, whether it's, in Portland's case, it's a bus. In some of the other communities, it might be the train, so that there's a safe way for people to access mass transit that isn't there now. And they're looking always at safety, always at connectivity, a good plan. I have a map in my office. I sent you the map. It's a little hard to read, but I do have a map in the office. If you wanted to come in, I could show it to you so that you could take a better look at it. So with that, I'll open it up for some discussion.
Yeah, this is Jim. I was going to say, thank you for sending the map. I know when we were looking at this, we drove down on Riverside and yeah, that west side of Riverside is really the only practical place to put it. So I like the way that looks. And I like the connectivity that that's going to provide from Chatham Court and from that street, which has had no sidewalks. That's obviously going to enable a better transition for folks walking either to certain shops, the churches, the schools. So I think that's a good strategy. Also, just wanted to note the sidewalks when we look at Freestone, as well as on High Street, those are sidewalks that when we talked about them from a sidewalk committee, those were sidewalks we would like to have seen done. But because of the bonding rules that were only allowed the replacement of sidewalks, we couldn't fill in those gaps. So again, this is a really good opportunity to do that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Susan?
Yes.
This is Rick. I agree with Jim, and I think it's good having had a business down in that area. I think it's good to just improve the sidewalks there. I used to see people walking along Marlborough Street coming to my store, sometimes rolling a shopping cart up a bumpy sidewalk back to their apartments. And it'll just enhance that area. And I think it's a good for the people that live in that area. And it'll just from a safety point of view, it's it's going to make things better. So I'm in favor of what we're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed out the grocery store, because it will be a safer way for people to come from Cheeto, Airline Avenue, that area. They'll have to walk over to the crosswalk at Cumberland Farms, but there'll be a sidewalk to do that, and then they would
Right.
cross with the light. I think it also enhances for drivers the fact that there are pedestrians, because they'll actually be on a sidewalk, not on a dirt path on the side of the road. So I think it will give some structure and some better view for the drivers to be aware that there are pedestrians there that then cross, and then they could cross from Cumberland Farms to the Anderson Farm Supply side of the street, and then continue up to Adams. And also there's certainly the exercise area. There's restaurants there, as well as Family Dollar and other shops. I think there's still the tanning shop and another beauty shop there as well. So it really enhances that whole area. And I know that many people that live on High Street, Freestone Avenue, all in this area, I'm at the senior center. It makes for a much more comfortable way to conduct yourselves and to be outside walking or using your bicycle on the sidewalk, which is much safer than being in the road. It's a busy area too. You know,
It is. It might help slow traffic a little bit. And, you know, if the sidewalks are better, maybe people will be more inclined to walk or take their bicycle than the car to go from, say, Airline Avenue to Portland Plaza.
Right.
So.
And there's a lot of youngsters that come down from the high school and the middle school, particularly those that are in after-school activities and sports. I see them every afternoon walking down High Street. And then when they get to the area to cross over 66, there's no safe way to land when you cross over there. So I think it'll be a big improvement. And as you say, it's traffic calming measure that I think is important. Anybody else? I wondered if you would consider a motion just to endorse this concept for the Connecticut Connectivity Grant. I think it would help, and I would include it with the grant that there is an agreement by the Board of Selectmen to approve this concept plan for the Connecticut Connectivity Grant. Is there a motion to that effect?
Sure, I'll make that motion to endorse this plan.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
I think I heard Mr. Pear first.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? And it will be sent in on or before the 14th of this month. So if you had any additional comments you wanted to make, give me a call or send them in. And if you had anything you wanted to write in support, feel free, or any groups. I'm going to be asking the Housing Authority, the Board of Education, the Middletown Area Transit, and there's some other groups, including the Complete Streets Group, which is looking at it and analyzing it. And I've had some discussions with Kathy Heron on this. She's been extremely helpful to me. And I know that there's some other folks and groups in town that are very interested in this walkability and connectivity. And as I said, I want to thank Bob and Jeff. They did all the field work so far. And Tom's taking care to make sure we do the best in the financial arrangements for this. I will point out that this grant will pay for the bricks and mortar. It does not pay for the planning or for the engineering. So I will be coming back to you in order to fund that. And depending on how that proceeds, I'll be in touch with you. But I wanted you to know about that at this finance meeting. If there's nothing else, I'll call for the question. All in favor of the motion to approve this grant?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. The next item is appointments to boards and commissions, and I believe Lou has a nomination.
Yes, I do. I have a nomination for the Airline Trail Steering Committee. A lady by the name of Carol Bozetta. I'd like to make a motion to put her on as an alternate to the Airline Trail Steering Committee.
Thank you, Lou. Is there a second?
I'll second it. It's
Thank
Ralph.
you, Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And I know that Ralph Zampano has a nomination.
Yep, I would like to nominate a very enthusiastic individual, Jade Richardson, for the library board of
Is
directors.
how could you spell her first name, please?
Jade, Jade.
Thank you.
Yep.
Because I know our recording secretary, sometimes it's difficult to hear on Zoom, so forgive me for asking you to repeat it.
That's okay. My nasally voice sometimes is hard to follow.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. It's Jim.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Are there any other appointments to boards and commissions tonight? Thank you. Number 12 is the Emergency Management Planning Grant. This is an annual grant. And the motion would be to allow me to sign the grant that's been written and submitted to Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. This is a grant that funds our work that we do to prepare for storms, and Donald Gouen administers this grant along with Tom Robinson. Is it about a $5,000 grant, Tom?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
And it's
Is
matched.
that usually
by-
the 10,000 and it's a 50-50 split?
Right. It's matched by the town. It's great help to us. Is there a motion to approve the submission and allow me to sign the EMPG grant?
Susan, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second that.
second it.
Thank you. The wording of the resolution is in your email. You may have copied it. I don't know that you did, but I will certainly make sure that the recording secretary has that. And then Ryan Curley will endorse that you approved it. Motion's been made and seconded. Am I right?
Yes.
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 All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have quite a few refunds of excess payments tonight. So if you would please bear with us, you need to turn to the back side of your agenda. And is there someone willing to read these tonight, Jim?
Yes, I will read them tonight.
I'll second it.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $6,267.99 to Susan G. and William R. Parati trustees.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion that we refund the amount of $32.97 to Honda Lease Trust.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion that we refund the amounts of $13.44 and $7.28 to Troy Maxfield.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Make a motion that we refund the amount of $38.39 to Warren W. Brees Jr.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And make a motion that we refund the amount of $266.19 to Warren W. Brees Jr.
We didn't hear you.
Oh, you didn't hear me at all? All right.
All
I
right.
make a mo,
I couldn't at least. Could you just repeat
Yeah.
it?
sure, I'll do it again. I make a motion that we refund the amount of $266.19 to Warren W. Brees Jr. or Jacqueline Brees.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Make a motion that we refund the amounts of $25.19 $11.29 and $40.86 to Joseph S. Maselli and Ann Maselli.
Second it.
Second by Ralph, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion that we refund the amount of $10.72 to Joseph S. Maselli.
Second it.
All in favor?